Okay, kids, so here I am, and I'm going to try to do activity B. I know I have lots of chicken scratch all over this, but this is going to be determining the initial baseline amount of H2O2 in solution. It's basically your control. But a few things I want to show you. First off, the difference between syringes and pipettes. Okay, syringes are these little plunger things, and you'll see we have one that says H2O2, which is our hydrogen peroxide one. We have one that's a transfer syringe. We have one that's the titration syringe, which will bring up the potassium permanganate, and you'll use that to titrate with that. And then we have one that has H2SO4, which is a sulfuric acid one. As for pipettes, you have a couple of blank ones that I don't have labeled. You have one labeled transfer. You can use that one, but I like using the one that says distilled water, because a lot of times they'll say use the transfer to transfer over distilled water. Now, I say if you're using distilled water, use a distilled water one. And then the one that says Catalysis on. Be very careful that you only use this with the Catalysis. And you will be getting Catalysis in a cup that says Catalysis when you go to do your time things. And I'll give you very little, because all you'll ever need is like 1 milliliter, which you'll see the markings on here. The 1 milliliter is the very top marking. It's a very little bit amount of Catalysis. Anyway, I'm going to set that aside because we're not using the Catalysis in this baseline. All we're going to do, I'm going to set this titration thing aside. In the baseline cup is we're going to put 10 milliliters, and this is following the directions. First direction is to put 10 milliliters of hydrogen peroxide. So I took my hydrogen peroxide, right, and I poured some in a cup so it's easier to get at, and I'm going to take 10 milliliters. And you'll see the markings on these syringes. I don't know if you can see this now with this, but I'll have to pull that all the way up to the 10. Okay, I can pull it up beyond that, but then squirt some out. And then once I get it to the 10, that 10, I can squirt completely in here. So let's get started. Let's pull up a whole bunch of this hydrogen peroxide. So I stick it down into that hydrogen peroxide, and I'm going to pull up probably past the 10. Okay, I think I'm past the 10. Right. Yeah, so I am. So now I got to get so that I'm only going to put 10 milliliters in here. So I'm going to squirt out until I get down to the 10 mark. Okay, and you'll see that with the syringe. So now I have 10 milliliters, and I'm going to squirt that hydrogen peroxide in there. That's the 10 milliliters. So that's all measured out for me. That's hydrogen peroxide. Okay, now the next step says that I'm going to add 1 milliliter of distilled water. So I'm going to take my distilled water, and I have a cup full of distilled water here. And I'm going to measure up, probably beyond, but then squeeze out until I have 1 milliliter. So I squeeze it. Oh, better get a better squeeze in here. Squeeze it all the way up, and so it's more. So I'm going to squeeze out until that comes down to the 1 milliliter mark. There's 1 milliliter, right? And I'm going to squirt that in, okay? So this water, by water going in there, that's kind of our control. We know the water is not going to decompose that hydrogen peroxide. So we're using that. In our timed things, though, we'll have 10 milliliters of hydrogen peroxide, and we will be squirting Catalysis, the enzyme, into that, 1 milliliter of the enzyme. So now that I have that, okay, when you go to squirt the Catalysis in, you'll time the 10 seconds or 30 seconds or 60 or 90 or 120 or 180 or 360. And after that happens, you got to get ready, because this is when you need your sulfuric acid. And you're going to get 10 milliliters of sulfuric acid. Now, this is acid. This is pretty nasty stuff. Okay, so try not to get it even on your gloves. But you're going to bring up a bunch, and you might even want to have this ready before you even start your countdown. Okay, so I brought it up past the 10. I'm going to squirt it down to the 10, so they only have 10 milliliters that's going in there, right? There's 10. Okay, so now you might have this, and you might have this like just sitting in there, or like just setting aside, or somebody, one of your partners is going to hold on to this, because when you put that Catalysis in, the timer starts. You don't have time to fiddle with the time. Now I can sit here because I did not put Catalysis in there. I only put water in there. So I know it's not reacting. So why am I even squirting the acid in? Because the acid usually will denature the enzyme and stop the reaction after so many seconds. But I don't have to worry about it because I know I didn't put an enzyme in there. Okay. But I'm still going to put this in as if, okay, that's water that went in. That's our control. So now I'm going to like kill it. I always say the acid like kills it. So I squirt the acid in. And when you do this in your experiments, right? I'm going to set that carefully here. You're going to swirl that around to make sure. Be careful when you swirl it that you don't swirl it so much and you end up spilling it. You can also use your stir rod to stir it around. Okay. Don't use any of the transfer pipettes or anything like that. Don't use those because that would contaminate them. You want to use those things only for what they say. So now my baseline is done. I have 10 milliliters of hydrogen peroxide. Then I squirt the milliliter of water in, and now I've killed it, even though it's not an enzyme. We know. So now what I got to do is I got to titrate this. Okay. But I'm not going to titrate all of this. And even when you do the timed things, you'll have, say this is your 10 seconds, because after like 10 seconds, you squirt it with the acid and it stops it, right? Or after 30 seconds, you squirt it with the acid and stops it. And then it can sit there for a while because it's all stopped. But now you got to transfer. So get your transfer syringe, okay? And you're going to take out only 5 milliliters because you don't want to titrate all of that. That's just too much to titrate. So you want to bring out only 5 milliliters of this mixture. So I'm going to pull it up beyond the 5, right? Squirt it down to the 5. This is where you got to be exact on your measurements. Okay, the more exact you are, okay, the better it is. And be careful, remember, you got acid in there. Okay, so I'm taking it down to my 5 mark. I want to get good results. I'm going to be like under pressure here. You guys got to use all my results for this. Okay, so I have my 5. And I'm going to squirt my 5 milliliters in there. Now remember that 5 milliliters is a mixture of the acid, right? The hydrogen peroxide and the 1 milliliter of water. When you go to do your time things, it'll be a mixture of the acid, the hydrogen peroxide that's left over after the catalase works on it. Okay. So now I'm going to titrate this. I'm going to show you how to titrate this. Let's move the sulfuric acid out of the way. And of course, over here you can see I also have some spare distilled water. I got some wash water because even after I use this transfer, it's a good idea to like rinse this out and put the waste in there. Same thing with your sulfuric acid. It says wash water. Please put distilled water in there, because you want to wash it with distilled water. You never want to wash with sink water. I'm even going to wash my hydrogen peroxide one out. Okay. Wash them all out. Okay. So they're all washed out and ready to go. So now I'm ready to titrate. So I'm going to get my titrate thing, and that's the one with the little hoser on the end. Okay. And I'm getting my potassium permanganate. This stuff can really stain. So I know I'm wearing a white sweater. I don't know what I was thinking. I'll pull up my sleeves a little bit more. But you can open it up and you can take this right out of the container. You know how usually you can't like recontaminate this stuff? It's kind of hard to contaminate this stuff. But anyway, we can get it right out of here. Now, what I suggest you do is pull up the syringe a little bit at first and then start sucking up the potassium permanganate. Okay. And I always say get more than 5 milliliters because you have 5 milliliters total in there. The most it's going to take is 5 milliliters then. So then you're going to squirt it down until you get to that 5 milliliters. And it's very dark to see this, so you got to be exact. Okay. And I like to start, but like say I went a little bit past 5, which I did. I'm sorry, I'm going to be picky here. I'm going to start right at 5. But if you go a little bit past 5, just write that's your initial volume. So my initial volume is 5 milliliters. And I will write that on my initial volume right here on my table on my part B. So I'm starting with 5 milliliters. Now, here's how the titration process happens. What I'm going to do is I'm slowly going to add. And I think I want to get this a little closer. Switch this with this here. Okay. Because I want you to be able to see in the cup. Let me kind of tilt this down a little too. I want you to watch in the cup what happens here. Okay. So I'm going to put a drop in, right? And you see how it kind of fizzles and it turns a color at first, but then it goes away. I'm going to put another drop in and see the color goes away. Let's see if you can see that. Good. Okay, put another drop in, the color shows, but then it goes away. And this, you got to be patient, okay? I know I'm going a little fast here. I should probably go a little slower, but I know this one's going to take a little longer. See how the color's there and then it goes away? You want to keep dropping until the color stays, okay? So, and it's going to take me a while probably because I'm doing the baseline. This is all hydrogen peroxide and sulfuric acid in there, just a little bit of water. So, and here's where it helps also to have like a partner, because, you know, if you can't see it so well, or you can have your partner do like the swirling. Ooh, that was close. It almost stayed that time. Let's do the next drop. Still didn't stay. Next drop. Still didn't stay. Next drop. So this might take a while. Let's hope not. Oh, it's getting close to staying. Not quite yet, though. It's getting closer. Once this color remains, okay, that was real close this time. Might be just one more drop here or something. Here, I'll make sure you can still see this. Okay. Ooh, that's looking nice. It's looking like it's staying, but let me give it a good swirl here. Let me hold this gently over here. Looks like that color's staying here. Okay, so since that color has changed and remained, I got to stop now. Okay, so now I'm just going to look at my final volume, which my initial volume was 5. Ooh, excuse me, my initial volume was not 5. Okay, so Mrs. Horner is messing up a little bit here. My initial volume was 7. And now my volume is 6.5. Okay, so I put my initial volume at 7, not 5. My bad, you guys. Oh, gosh. Duh. Okay, you guys, I just had a dumb moment here. I'm reading here. My initial volume was 5. I am now down to a little bit below the 4, so I'm going to call that at 3.9 as my final. Okay, so yeah, I know another drop just dropped in there, but that's okay. I'm going to squirt the rest of my potassium permanganate. So my final volume was 3.9, and your partner would be able to like write that down. I'm going to wash this out, so I'm going to stick it in the wash water, suck up some things, throw it in there. Okay, and you can see the beautiful purple color. Okay, that's when it's diluted, because that's mostly water. Oh, come on. This doesn't want to cool up right now. Okay, there we go. Wash that out as best as you can. Always good to wash these out between every single moment. Okay, now I'm going to write in new numbers here. Hopefully this pen works here, and you can see where I'm putting these numbers. I have old numbers from like last year in here, but my initial volume was 5.0 milliliters. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can. Okay, my final volume was 3.9 milliliters. So through the of math, okay, I come up with, I believe, yes, 1.1. Am I right? 1.1 milliliters. Okay, 1.1 milliliters is my change in volume. So my baseline, this number here, I'm going to put down here is my 1.1 milliliters. Okay, that's pretty interesting there. Okay, usually I see it as a little bit more. So we're going to go with this and see what happens. Okay, so I started at 5, went to 3.9. That was a 1.1 change, right? I did do my math correctly there. And that should be our baseline for our next things. So I will set up an overnight one, but I'm going to set that up on Tuesday when we come back to school. And you guys will be doing part D. Okay, one group will be doing the 10, 30, and 360. Not 360. Yeah, 361. And somebody else will be doing the. I'll be doing the 10. Excuse me. I'm going to do that now. Well, but I'm going to have to end this video and start it on the next one. Bye.